It is no secret that I do not like Yorgos Lanthimos films, so let's start there. But as a wise woman once said, if you cannot adequately explain yourself, even subjectively, and back yourself up with the text, then you don't get to have an opinion. But if you can, your opinion can be as good as fact. So, in this video, I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to try and explain why I find Yorgos Lanthimos films so grating. I'm going to try and be brief, because it's still a Thought Summer episode, and I want to end it on something that you can actually action. So I first came across Yorgos Lanthimos with Poor Things, and I thought Poor Things was just okay. I thought it had some pretty terrifying things to say about women's experiences, and I left the theatre at the time going, that was pretty good, I liked it visually. I think it has a bit of a naive point of view about how, patriarchy works, but at the end of the day, it did talk about all the dangers. Of course, I then walk home through central London and almost have a panic attack, genuinely fearing for my life, because the thing with films like that is, who are we shocking? Who are we trying to affect? Because a film like that will really affect women. Will it affect men? And if it won't affect men, to what end have we made this film? To what end? Why? Because if you're just trying to tell women that things are difficult out here, I think they've probably got that one covered. I don't think we need another movie about that, and I certainly don't think the way Yorgos went about it was affirming to women, or made them feel like they had been related to, but instead felt kind of like, or at least to me, felt more like an affirmation of a threat against women, that the world is that dangerous for women. But for men, I don't see the same reaction. I don't see people going, oh, I didn't know how difficult it was. Oh, I didn't know how dangerous it was. Because I think, and this is the theme, I think stories that go over how difficult the world is without any further commentary are a little bit useless. Because, functionally, stories can function as warnings. We've discussed this. And stories can also function as call to actions. If your story is just about how we all know that the world is scary and dangerous, what action are you asking for? What real warning are you giving that someone doesn't already have? And have you gone about that warning in the most effective, I don't even want to talk about correct or woke or tactful, have you gone about it in the most effective way? Who are you trying to convince of the danger? How? Because I don't really think the how of Poor Things justified whatever who Yorgos was potentially thinking of. So I watch Poor Things, I go, eh. But then, and I'm not too much looking forward to Kinds of Kindness, but I find myself in the middle seat of a surprise screening at the London Film Festival, and surprise, it's Kinds of Kindness. And I really didn't like Kinds of Kindness. It was 3 stories, again, trying to function as some kind of warning that just ended up coming off as you see this thing? Thing bad. Weird thing bad, That weird thing is really bad. Did you notice how weird that bad thing is? And how bad that weird thing is? Now, at the end of the day, Yorgos is an artist. He can make whatever he wants. And Film 4 and all of these other production companies that are so enamored with his work that they keep funding it and keep greenlighting it, again, they are artists and they see some kind of commercial viability to his work, and clearly Emma Stone likes keep going back to Yorgos Lanthimos for a lot of things. But I keep coming back to the question with Yorgos Lanthimos. Who are you trying to warn, and how? Because a lot of his films function as warnings against bad things, but without any sense of direction. I don't know who he's speaking to. And if I assume he's speaking to me, his effect he's having on me is not one of action, but paralysis. And if I extend that to other people, then that means his films are not actually functioning as warnings, but as freeze responses, as immobilization tactics. The films are so egregiously, insanely, unnecessarily, hubristically graphic and unnecessarily graphic and unnecessarily full of shock and awe that I have to wonder who the films are for. And if I go uncharitably, I can say, well, it's for guys that enjoy watching that stuff. It's for people who enjoy watching that stuff. And so therefore the film doesn't function as a warning, but almost as like fetish content. And I don't want to be uncharitable. I want this to have all been for something, because a lot of resources and money have been poured into Yorgos Lanthimos. I don't want to think that he's making essentially fetish content for people who enjoy violence and incest. Because I go back and I watch, at the behest of Jeremy O. Harris actually, other films from Yorgos' early work, and I find that it's much the same thing. Abuse of very thin women who are often knocked out cold. And if I'm charitable, I say, oh, this is a warning. It's a warning. But nothing in the text supports that this film wants this behavior to end or doesn't endorse it. Now you're going, oh, Umnia. No, you're not going, but weirdos on the internet are going, oh, you don't get it. You're media illiterate. You don't get it. Just because someone depicts something in a film doesn't mean they're endorsing it. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't mean they're endorsing it. I agree. Just because someone depicts something in a film doesn't mean it's endorsing it. I would like you to find me the condemnation in a Yorgos Lanthimos film, though. Even the most subtle condemnation. Even the most subtle. I see no condemnation in Yorgos Lanthimos films of the terrible things that happen. Oftentimes, the graphic or gory or violent things that happen, even if there's like some kind of moralistic button on it, it often takes the side of continuing the deformed behavior. And I'm thinking specifically in terms of some of the scenes in Kinds of Kindness. Now, do I need everything to be explicitly and blatantly spelled out for me? Absolutely the hell not. And it's very much not what I like in my movies. But I feel that every time I return to Yorgos Lanthimos' work, there is a lack of condemnation of the actions taken within the film. A lack of condemnation even in the most symbolic terms, even in an abstract sense, even as a hint of a whisper of a bird song in the background. I don't see condemnation. I see revelry. I hear revelry. I watch revelry. The way it is shot, and maybe this is intentional, maybe this is not intentional, the way Lanthimos shoots these stories is romantic. And I'm sorry, you cannot convince me otherwise. The problem is, I can't tell if that's malicious or if it's what I like to call graduate DOP-itis, where someone is so obsessed with how gorgeous something looks and wants to make something look gorgeous that they don't realize the political implications of making these things look gorgeous. Euphoria is another great example of this. If Euphoria is a condemnation of a certain kind of lifestyle, why does that lifestyle look so beautiful? Aesthetics, the use of beauty and aesthetics in film is political. Because we know that humans will always forgive and paper over the ills and the sins and the problems of beautiful people and beautiful things. And those amongst us, societally, will often glorify whatever looks beautiful and pretty. So if you then put drugs, alcohol, violence, non-consensual sex, incest, rape, and you turn it into a beautiful movie, with no criticism, I have a problem with that. And that is how I read Yorgos Lanthimos films. I am unable to see, and I try. I rewatched Begonia twice, but I was unable, and I have my own issues with Begonia, which we will not get into now, we'll be here forever. I was unable to see any condemnation. And if you were to point to the most basic level of, oh, this person says it's wrong, or oh, it's obvious that you shouldn't hold someone hostage, oh, it's obvious that you shouldn't kiss a dead body, oh, it's obvious that this. If a film starts with that premise and then keeps going, what is the implication? Oh, it's obviously bad. We all agree this is bad. Okay, let's continue. What is that implying? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you defend being a hater.